Tarke here, and today we've got another Patreon build review. This one is from Tipton. Hey Tarke, I'm a new player starting a few weeks before the end of 3.9 and always liked the look of Magma Orb from YouTube videos. My problem is I am dying a lot in capitals, mostly from tier 14 to 16s. My Atlas is only on Awaken of 4. These Delirium mobs run fast than Olympic medalists and wreck me, and sometimes I just get randomly one-shot. Please mess up my entire setup and help me, thanks. So, our boy, as you can see from the skill tree, is clearly a little bit new to the game. Pretty impressed that he's only been playing for a couple of weeks now. Yeah, he's managed to get up to tier 14 and tier 16 maps. That's a lot better than most. So huge props there. We'll go through the skills, we'll go through the items, then we'll clean up the tree, because most of the change with this is going to be cleaning up the tree, because the tree's kind of like, you know, weird. So he's got Magma Orb, he's got a slower progeny for single target, GMP for mapping, makes sense. Obviously try and get level 21 Magma Orb. Just get a bunch of level 20s, just level them up, then bar them. I always, when I play spell builds, I always try and get 21s before I go for 21 20s. Because for nearly every single skill, you'd rather have the level 21 version than the quality. Obviously, some things like Lightning Warp are kind of different, but for the most part, try and get the 21. Orb of Storms, Arcane Surge, Increased Duration, Culling Strike. Having a big Increased Duration Arcane Surge setup, I agree with. Not super keen about having on the Orb of Storms. I'd probably rather just having it on like a dash or a flame dash, so the buff's always active. I know for me personally, at least, I'm not the best at maintaining my Orb of Storm uptime. But if you're good at it, great. I'd probably rather move that to something else. You could also use a brand instead of an Orb of Storms, which basically will tend to prefer. But sure, yeah. Steel Skin, cast damage taken, increased duration, Vol Haste. I can see you're also using a Vol Righteous Fire and a Vol Grace. 3 Vol skills is kind of a lot. I sometimes run 3 Vol skills. Generally, when I'm running 3 Vol skills, it's kind of like 2 defensive and then 1 offensive. Sorry. My reasoning being is you generally only need to press your big, like, Vol Righteous Fire or Vol Blight at the very end of the map when you're against the boss. You don't really press it while clearing. So the fact that you're juggling, like, multiple Vol skills doesn't matter in that sense. Whereas your defensive stuff, you want to be using a lot more proactively. So, for example, if you proc a Legion, you want to have your defensive stuff up. If you have, like, Blight is actually surprisingly rippy. Synthesis encounters, Syndicate encounters, obviously Delirium encounters, you know. So generally, if you're going to go triple Vol, I would much rather go double defensive, 1 offensive, whereas you've got Vol Haste, which is offensive, Vol Grace defenses, which is offensive. So I'm probably going to say drop the Vol Haste, just go down to 2, have Vol Grace, you just spam while mapping, and like Metamorphs or whatever, and the Vol Righteous Fire you pop at the end, so I'm going to get rid of the U. You've got Clarity, Haravash, and Enlightened Zealotry. It makes sense. Flame Dash, Summon Chaos Golem, Minion Life. I hate having Golems. Golems mess up enemy targeting. They're annoying to maintain. They die all the time. I'm just going to get rid of that. I'd also much rather run Dash than Flame Dash. You've got enough Dexterity to run Dash, so I'll just run Dash over Flame Dash. Personal preference, you can keep Flame Dash if you prefer it. Vigorous Fire, Vol Grace, Increased Duration. Yep, kind of a shame that we can't have them in here, so let's put the Vol Righteous Fire in here, since you just want the biggest increased duration just for bursting that boss, and then we'll get rid of that, and that, so you just have like if you want to add the Vol Grace, just add that in a floating socket. I'm gonna sneeze, 1 second, sorry. We'll edit that out in post. I won't edit that out in post. And then for some reason you got the same auras twice. I'm guessing you're just leveling up gems or something. You can't use the same gems. Yeah, I was guessing that's just a bug. So you didn't mean to have those on twice. Orb of Storms, Culling Strike. Oh, so apparently, okay, so apparently we've like just duplicated some skills twice. Okay, so let's get rid of all that. Steel Skin, okay, that we've already seen, yeah. Okay, so yeah, when he was importing his setup to send to me, he probably just like screwed something up and sent some things over. So you've got your chest, helm, gloves, boots. So you've got open weapons, unless he's using like a Comb's Heart or something. What's he using? He's using Infernal Mantle and 2 Void Batteries. Jeez Louise. And you've got... Okay, I think I know why you're taking so much damage. So... You've got... Okay, for one, you've got Mind Over Matter, but you've only got, like, 300 unreserved mana. You're always considered being on low mana, so because you're using Infernal Mantle, you're always taking 25% increased spell damage. Now, that isn't, like, increased as in, like, 10% increased damage on the tree. That is 25% more spell damage that you're taking. There's lots of random spells at the moment. Yeah, no wonder you're getting deleted. So you've only got, like, 4.6k life, and you're just randomly... Whenever you do get touched by a spell because you have this chest on, you will get instantly deleted, and because you have Mind Over Matter, as soon as you get hit by anything, you're completely and you can't cast any of your spells. So that's going. That's a big no-no. And that's going, because that's a big no-no. Your damage is going to go down, not even by much, but it's just like, it's just no, don't do that. If you were to literally just take off that chest piece and replace it with a tabula, you would improve your build. So you've got a really nice Magma Orb Helm. You've got +2 chains with 120 life, double res, solid. Gloves, pretty good. They give you some stats. They give you a good life roll. Not much res, which kind of sucks, but they're like fine. Boots, again, they're fine. They've got decent res, 30% movement speed, a little bit of strength, and they've got the movement speed enchant on there, so they're pretty decent. You've got a Gleamfang, which gives you increased damage for each chain. Gleamfang's best on slot. You would eventually want a Vald one, but yep, it's really, really good. And you've allocated Heartseeker. I'm probably going to change that. Your ring, lots of attributes, lots of life. Yeah, it's a solid ring. And this is a solid ring as well. The increased A damage with attacks is doing nothing for you. So swap that prefix out for just like flat fire damage and cold damage or mana or whatever, but just swap it for something else. And then solid belt, life triple res. Okay. Got an onslaught generation on your jewel. You've got a seething life flask of heat, a silver flask of staunching. This is just personal preference. I've seen a few people do it this way around. I always personally prefer having the bleed removal on the life flask and the freeze removal on utility flask. I also wouldn't really run a silver flask. Sure, it's DPS, but like, nah, screw that. Replace that. Run a... Because like currently you're saying that you're squishy, right? You've got like no life. You've got like 4.6k life. You had a chest piece which was making you take 25% more spell damage. And then none of your flasks are defensive. I guess you could argue the Xeris is defensive against Chaos Res. But like, you're running full DPS flasks. Drop the silver flask. Run a... even running of Iron Skin. Drop the silver flask for a granite flask of Iron Skin. You also haven't got warding, you haven't got curse removal. That means you'll die like 24/7 to curses. So I'm gonna like change out your flask. The Xeris will stay, but I'm getting rid of both of those. That jewel's kind of shit. We're gonna get rid of that. And that's fine. Okay, so onto the tree. The tree's like all over the place. If you want to do Mind Over Matter, that's fine. But then don't run a bunch of auras. So if you're going to do Mind Over Matter, you could keep the Herald of Ash, you would drop the Clarity, you would drop the Zealotry. So you would lose a big chunk of damage, but you'd be doing it if you wanted the survivability. So you'd do something kind of like that. And I'm assuming you want to actually play a Mind Over Matter build. Your tree's a little bit awkward because you're playing with the wands, so you want as much power charge vibes as possible. I don't think this is worth... If you've got to route all the way to acrobatics, always take phase acrobatics as well. So let's get rid of that stuff. If you're going to route this way, you always take these life nodes. Like, the reason you feel squishy is you've got no life. Also, most people wouldn't bother going to Shadow. Yes, you're going to Shadow for the power charge because you're using the Void batteries. But the main reason you would go over this way generally is for Doomcast. Doomcast is very efficient damage. Like very, very efficient damage. So, you know, if you're going to come to Shadow Start, take Doomcast. As for routing, you're gonna want to pick up any 2-point jewels you're near. You're gonna want to take life nodes. So this is now a level 97 tree. It's pretty squishy though. You're not really getting anything of worth from this cluster jewel setup. So from this cluster jewel, what are you gaining? You're gaining enemies you hit are destroyed on kill, nice against stuff like porcupines, and nearby enemies have fire exposure. Fire exposure you can just get from using Wave of Conviction. You only need fire exposure on bosses. You don't need it for everything else. So you're spending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're spending 10 points for basically corpse destruction. And 12, 24, 36, 66, 78. So you're getting 78%, so you're getting 7.8% damage per point. Is that worth? No. Cut that. Right. Running cluster jewels is fine, but if you want to run cluster jewels, then, like, you know, whatever. Also, another point worth mentioning is a lot of your damage is chaos-based because of the Gleam Fang and the Aziri's Promise. So fire exposure is still good for your base fire damage, but a lot of your damage isn't actually fire. A lot of your damage is also chaos-based. So, if you wanted to keep Mine Over Matter, that's fine. We now need to put mana nodes into your tree, and you're actually near quite a few good mana nodes. So, I would do something kind of like this. I would definitely take Mind Drinker. Mind Drinker is really good, giving me that 2% mana on kill. You could also take Soul Siphon. You're already next to Prodigal Perfection. I like Mystic Bulwark. Mystic Bulwark gives you some spell blocks, so I'll probably take that full cluster there. I would definitely take Arcane Capacitor, because that gives you damage, gives you cast speed, and gives you a bunch of mana. So you're now looking at, with Herald of Ash enabled and just Herald of Ash, 1.7k mana unreserved, 5.2k life. You previously only had 4.6k life. So you've gained like 600 life, and your mom actually does something for you now. You could also, instead of going Might Over Matter, you could go Eldritch Battery Might Over Matter, since because of Pious Path, you have a bunch of ES recovery. So that could be a very solid option. That way you could still keep all of your auras, so you could reserve all of your mana. Do EB Mom, that's very, very popular on Inquisitor. That's how Mathil builds most of his Inquisitors. And that's something I could also recommend doing. If you were going to do a... I'll just like throw together a couple of random trees. So this is Mom. And I'll do them for like between 90 and 95. We'll do a non-Mom version, so just like a life tree. And you could maybe do a CI tree. Keeping in mind that you are running the... You need the power charges because you're running the Void Beacon. It's interesting that you're running that. Like, it's not bad by any stretch, but it does make the points a little bit awkward. I kind of want to come all across that way, and that's only 1 point. That's 2 points. You get access to the jaw, and you get to root through the strength, which is nice. Could also drop those 2 points. So to route that way. So do 1, 2, 3, 4. Drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Do you even want to come across this way? Could you want to just go along the top? Could you just go along the top? You could. Maybe we go along the top. That is good damage. Take the spell crap. We need to add a bunch of life to this build. Alright. So it's level 69 tree. I'll go that way to then shove a big cluster jewel in there. So now I just want to add as much life as I can. So places where I could get life, I could, if I get really desperate, I could just come to Marauder, farm life. Otherwise, I can go, oh, you want the fucking power charges though, don't you? Yeah, you kind of, kind of forced into going for those. I don't know if the void batteries are the way to go. They're just easy damage. What if you had like a CI tree or like a low life tree? Let's see how, I'm curious how other people are doing. Inquis with void batteries. Let's just look at void battery trees in general, shall we? Void battery. They're always going to be assassins. We've got a couple of Hierophants, a couple of Inquis. So look. Come on top, shove a cluster jewel in, come that way, do that. Kind of like that. It's kind of neat. So a lot of people are doing rooting like this, where they skip their starts entirely, which is very strong if you're going to have to be trying to fit cluster jewels into your setup. Because, you know, cluster jewels, it's extra points in the build. They're great, but if you're going to use them, you need to cut points from somewhere else. So you gotta, like, make it worthwhile. This way, grab Throat Seeker. Snowforge is pretty decent. Level 80. Okay, I kind of like that as a base. So if that's the base tree, then it's a case of where are we going from here? If you're going to do a big cluster jewel setup, shove a big cluster setup in here. Otherwise, you can chase out life. If you want to do Mom, then take the good mana nodes that we skipped. Your stats distribution's all still fine. Okay, so let's say that you use that as the base. 172 life, which is like the minimum amount of life I'd want. And then you can just get 2 7% life jewels, which you already have. Pretty good jewels. Whoops, missed out that one note. So 177% life. Yeah, 177% life is okay for just like a DPS softcore build. And then for cluster jewels for this build, I kind of like the idea of having the corpse destruction. Like, it's good. Sorry, but you need to get something else with it to make it worthwhile. So let's have a look at what you've got. You could also, there's a really good projectile cluster, which is, that's a medium. Okay, cool. That I used on someone else's Magma Orb build, and I thought that was a pretty good start. So going for Cremator. I kind of like the blind node. Are you using any blind stuff? No. It's like Dazzling Bright or something. Disorienting Display, that's the one. Blind would use an Ellie skill. Blind is very powerful defensively. You complain about having bad defense. You know, so it's a way to get your defense less shitty. And then you could also go for like Smoking Remains, so you get Smoke Clouds on kill, just goes fire damage. If you need resistances, you can also just go for Prismatic Heart. Depends on what you need. Let's say you went for Smoking Remains. It's also slightly more damage. You want as few points as possible, and then obviously we want to add in 2 jewels. Add to build. Going for a big, like, a big, oh, for fuck's sake. A big setup like this might mean that we need to cut some points elsewhere. You probably also can't even afford to go for these last 2 points. Yeah, because this is already gonna, I can tell it's already gonna push pretty high 90s. But I'll just show you like some of the options that you can go for. So for mediums, the best one is most likely going to be the projectile one. And again, you want as few points as possible. And which one was it? Where's the one? Follow through? Yeah. Projectiles deal 50% increased damage to each remaining chain. You'll stack as many chains as you can get. Really obvious synergy there. And then, what was the other one I liked? A repeater just gives attack and cast speed, which is solid, and projectile damage. Shrieking bolts, taunt on hit, you don't need. You don't want projectile speed, that fucks you up. Increased projectile damage with hits against nearby enemies. This is really solid. So you're either going for eye to eye, because generally you're pretty close to enemies with Magma Orb when it comes to bossing, or you're going for repeater if you just want the attack and cast speed. But eye for eye will be more damage. Repeater might be the one to go for just because it will make the cast just make things feel smoother, and then you don't need to be like right up in the enemy's face. So maybe you just go for that. But eye to eye could be the one to go for. But that will just add a lot of extra damage into the build. Because when you then start like counting how many remaining chains there are, because you've got, you know, +1 there, +2 on the helmet, and all the base and the skill as well, it's like crazy damage. And then, yeah, if you're low on points, you could just shove more 7% jewels in there. So 7% jewel multi in there. You already have ailment immunity. If you're mapping and you said that you were feeling very squishy while mapping, you could run an elusive small jewel. Otherwise, you could just go for 2 life jewels. For the elusive, is that evasion or dodge? I always forget. I think it's the dodge one. It's the dodge one. Dodge, and it's called no witnesses. Yeah, 10% chance to gain elusive on kill. You could also try and go for a pair of elusive boots, which you didn't have. Also, tailwind boots would be like your end game, but basically the way this works is whenever you kill an enemy, you gain elusive. The elusive slowly goes from 100% down to 0%, and then you kill an enemy, it goes back up to full again. Really nice. To make you feel much tankier while mapping. Would definitely recommend getting one of these while mapping. And then if you just want to add survivability, you could just go for some life jewels, or as I said, if you want to keep the points down a little bit, you could just put in 2 more jewels like this with just life, crit multi, cast speed, spell damage. If you've got like insane 3-4 stat jewels like that, like these jewels are really fucking good. If you can fit those in, just shove those in there. Then you got level 94 tree, pretty realistic. But you can see that your base tree, which was, you didn't have that on the tree you sent me. On the tree you sent me, it was like that. You had like 4k life or something, 7k. It was like, I think it was like 4.6k life. And the fucking chest piece. So this tree has like 5.4k. So this one is still like pretty glass cannon, but just does a lot of damage. Because that's 2 million before you factor in the remaining chains. Is there a way that I can say like how many chains is left? The other thing which is also kind of nice about it is, so the way that Gleamfang works is like it gains damage as they chain, right? Whereas this kind of gives you this gives you some on the it evens out the front and the back end, if that makes sense. Like, so if it hasn't chained many times, you're getting a bunch of damage. If it has chained a lot, you're getting a bunch of damage. So it makes your damage feel more consistent at both the start and at the end, and just less spiky in general. And making your build feel less spiky is always good. That's pretty solid. So yes, if you want to go for Mom, do a tree that looks more, I kind of like the way we rooted along this way, going for the Colossus Jewel setup. You could do a Mom tree going for the Colossus Jewel setup, and you'd look like this. You have to cut that stuff, sadly. 108. I think to do that, you might have to drop Shadow completely. Either that, or you just need to drop a lot of life. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can fit the Colossus Jewels in on the Mum tree without being like high 90s, which you're not. So yeah, if you want to just take your current character, you don't want to invest crazy into Colossal Jewels, and you just want to make your survivability go up, go for a tree that looks kind of like this, do Might Never Matter stuff. Also, make sure that you run a Enduring Mana Flask on your Mom builds. Running Enduring Mana Flask on your Mom builds is mandatory. So get an internal, roll it with Enduring, and this means that the Mana Sustain isn't removed when you reach full mana. It's very, very strong. And that way you'll always be maintaining that nice clean mana. Also, make sure that you have mana on all of your gear. So you want to be going for, like, life mana every single slot. If you want to go Might Never Matter, if you want to stay like this, then fine, stay like this. And then just swap out for this life tree, which will look something kind of like that. Would recommend it. You could also go for, like, the whole Shaper's Elder's Ring combo. You also don't have any curses going on that I can see. So if you're going to run an Orb of Storms, I'd recommend doing, like, Orb of Storms curse on hit. Or more likely, Wave of Conviction curse on hit. So you could do, like, Wave of Conviction, curse on hit, Flammability, or Elemental Weakness, depending on... Oh, wait, you don't need... Because of the... Go for Projectile Weakness... Yeah, I forgot. Another reason why the exposure was bad. Yeah, you're an Inquisitor. You already ignore all resistances. So yeah, you'd go for Orb of Storms, or Stormbrand, Curse on hit, Projectile Weakness. Projectile Weakness might feel a bit janky to play with because you'll knock back enemies. It kind of adds nice defense in a way that, like, you'll be constantly pushing enemies away from you. I'd probably not run Orb of Storms. I'd probably run Stormbrand. So, like, you put the Stormbrand on the boss and then pushes it away. If you don't like Projectile Weakness feeling a bit wanky, you can just run Assassin's Mark, which is still very solid in terms of damage. Not quite as much, but it will also smooth out your crit chance. Also gives you another source of power charge generation. I know you have it from your Magma Orb, but it's just, like, another way of doing it. Sorry, clear my throat. If you were going full DPS warrior, you would want an Awakened Curse on hit, and you'd run both. You could also, if you had more levels, swap these 2 points for 3 points, and then, like, take Whispers of Doom and Heart of Flame. But I don't know what you would cut to make that work. Like... That's how I would have built the tree before Colossal Jewels existed. So not entirely sure what you could swap around for stuff like that. But yeah, some kind of Stormbrand Curse on hit setup. So you could do Stormbrand Curse on hit, a Curse, Culling Strike. And then have Dash, Second Wind, Arcane Surge, level 6 or 7 or whatever the fuck it is. So that's weapon 1. That's floating somewhere. That's gloves. That's boots. And then you've got open links for a big cast and damage taken setup. So you can do, like, big cast and damage taken. I quite like Immortal Call generally. I prefer having a low level Immortal Call to a Steel Skin. Steel Skin's good if you're going to do, like, max level Steel Skin. You can also just manually cast Steel Skin. If you manually cast it, you'll save yourself a bunch of links. You'll feel a lot tankier, but it's up to you. Also, you can have Second Wind linked in to your guard skill, so it lowers the cooldown, so you can press your guard skill more often. So you can do, like, Dash, Second Wind, guard skill, Arcane Surge. That could be another way you could do it. So, like, just manual pressing Steel Skin. If you can manually press Steel Skin, I know it sounds weird, but some people can't press a button every couple of seconds. If you have the insane APM to press a button, manually press it and put it in your dash. If that's too complicated, then run Cast and Damage Taken and Immortal Call. So then you go Cast and Damage Taken level 1, Immortal Call level 3, and then Increased Duration, Val Grace or Val Righteous Fire. You're originally around Val Righteous Fire, so I guess we'll put the Val Righteous Fire back in there. Yeah, it's kind of whatever. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of that setup there. So that's locked in. That locked in. Herald of Ash floating somewhere. That in there. This was the... So with this tree, you can actually have auras again. So you do Herald of Ash. Then we can put the Zealotry back in. What did I do which made the damage go? I did something which fucked up the damage. Oh, I disabled large side, that's why. Also, you shouldn't have it enabled because it's just like cheesing numbers. Could also go for Cast Summon Shaken, Immortal Call, Vol Grace. Vol Molten Shell, or you could just run just Vol Molten Shell, increase duration, Righteous Fire, and run a Granite Flask. I'm probably going to put a Granite Flask into this build. So I said I was going to change up your flasks. As I said, I'd rather have a Life Flanch of Staunching. If you're doing the Mom stuff, put an Enduring Eternal Mana Flask in there. So let's go for Flask Utility. I dropped the Silver Flask. I don't like Silver Flasks. They're cheesy. Quartz, I recommend to everyone at the moment. Quartz is very, very strong. That's not what I wanted to do. Phasing is just mandatory. You just get constantly swarmed. Like, everything's just, like, hitting you in the face all the time. You just need it. So get a Quartz of Warding. I'm just gonna make... just pretend that's Staunching. And then, if you're gonna run Molten Shell, run a Granite Flask. If you're not gonna run Molten Shell, then run a Stibnite if you're not getting blind from anywhere else. Because it's got very good uptime. Otherwise, run a Jade Flask. So, yeah, up to you. Either a Stibnite Flask, a Jade Flask, or a Granite Flask, depending on your setup. And then just put in whatever suffix that you're missing and add it in there. Because you're an Inquis, so you're immune to ailments, so you don't even need of heat on there. I should have realized that ages ago. Because I was thinking like, why has he even got that? Okay. So in that case, you definitely don't need that stuff, so I'm gonna remove that. Life Flask of Staunching. I can't believe that took me like 20 minutes to work it out. Longer than that, 30 minutes to work that out. Of Seething, or Bubbling, whichever you prefer. And then Granite of Iron Skin, and we're going to run Molten Shell. And that'll make you feel significantly tankier. Significantly tankier. And then you can run the Quartz of Warding there, which I deleted apparently. Apparently I deleted the Quartz of Warding. Pretend there was a Quartz of Warding there. I'm pretty out of it today apparently. Flask, Utility, Quartz, Warding. Let's build. Cool. So with that active, your character looks a lot better. So now we're going to delete this entirely, and instead we're going to do Vol, Molten Shell, increase duration. So you manually Molten Shell throughout the map, and then you do Vol, Molten Shell on big scary things like Metamorph, Boss, whatever. And then here you would do dash, second wind. Then you lose the Arcane Surge on your dash. You could just do another just second wind. So it's up more octave, and you could shove the Arcane Surge in there. So you could have that as a 4-link. Have that as a 2-link. If you can afford it, shove an Empower on there. So it travels further. Shove that in your wands. Otherwise, you could just run Flame Dash, second wind. But yeah, go for something sort of like that. And your build will feel much, much better. Your DPS has gone up. Your survivability has gone up. Just the tree is less obnoxious. Would recommend. Look into good cluster jewels. But yes, I'm Tarke. Magma Orb, by the way. Have a good day. Bye-bye.